Every gambler knows that the secret to surviving,
I don't wanna take advice from fools.
You always won every time you placed a bet.
Money, that's what I want.
Handicapping NBA injuries. I'm Joe Duffy, CEO of offshoreinsiders.com, the top sports betting site in the world. Now, as a general rule of thumb, when a team loses a star player, short term, we actually bet with that team. Now, that is if it is already known that that guy is not going to play, which means the markets have over-adjusted. It is already taken into consideration in the line, plus his team has had a chance to make preparations without him. Again, it is almost impossible to manufacture emotion, but teams will rally around adversity over the short run. Meanwhile, the opposing team will often have a letdown, a little bit of a false sense of security because the opposite team is without their star player. And as we said, combine that with the market over adjustments, very short term, meaning 1 or 2 games maximum will go with that team. Now, if we happen to be right and that team does play well for a maximum of 2 games without their star player, then is the time to start fading them. That emotion that cannot be manufactured, there is a point of diminishing return. The markets correct themselves, and their next opponent is not going to have that same false sense of security. They will play the same way they would and prepare the same way they would mentally as if that team were having their star player. We'll take, Kobe Bryant as an obvious example. But more importantly, what happens when a player comes back into the lineup? If a star player has missed a minimum of 8 games, 10 games, the more games a team has missed, and if they're playing pretty well without that player, once that star player comes back, it's that 1 step back before making 2 steps forward type scenario. There's usually some chemistry problems with that player coming back into the lineup, and as a general rule of thumb, again, everything we say is always combined with so many other factors, but as a general rule of thumb, we will actually bet against that team when they get that star player back. But as each game he does return, that is when we will start betting with that team. And finally, what is the best way to measure what a team's value is to a player's value is that team? The NBA's own website, nba.com. Go to statistics, and I believe it is the last thing on their menu. You will see they have the plus-minus statistics. That is fantastic. It's an interactive tool. You can see, much like the NHL plus-minus, if you're familiar how they work, except this tool is even better. You can see how 2 players have a plus-minus statistic playing together. For example, Dwight Howard and Kobe Bryant. You can see 3 players, 4 players, or all 5 players as a unit. And that is excellent for handicapping. And I know some sharps who do that, betting those quarter bets based on the number of fouls a player has and who is more likely to play the most minutes in that 4th quarter. You got to be very quick on that. I haven't perfected that myself. Right now, I like to keep with the game and the totals selections. Speaking of totals, that's where NBA injuries can be exploited the most, because so often teams' biggest adjustment will be in the pace of the game. Maybe they will have a better offensive player taking the place of the starting player. It will hurt them more defensively and overall, but will benefit them offensively. Maybe they'll slow down the pace if their starting point guard is out. So that's where we go to the team's media sites, and if you look at our sports betting tutorial, we show you the best way where you can actually research and get the beat writers' take on things. A lot of them are pretty accurate, but really look to see how a team is going to adjust pace-wise, because it can really be exploited, NBA injuries that is, when it comes to totals. Got a lot more secrets. Keep visiting us both here on the YouTube channel at YouTube/Offshore Insiders, and visit us each and every day for the best sports plays to beat the sports books in the industry at offshoreinsiders.com. I'm Joe Duffy. My picks are specifically on God's tips, but we got a bunch of excellent handicappers at offshoreinsiders.com. Again, www.offshoreinsiders.com.